So we're going to be looking at two things in the second half. Pretty much everything we do is going to be in Acrobat Pro. We have several PDFs that we're going to be looking at as examples. And I should ask, is anybody new?
Yeah, there's some.
Okay. All right, sorry about that. So this is part 2 of a 2-part series, and what we talked about in the first part was sort of the idea of what an accessible document is and how you produce an accessible document in Microsoft Word. And that involved identifying headings within the document, top-level headings, secondary headings, and so forth. It involved adding alternate text to images. It involved making sure that language was identified if we have a multilingual document. Using lists that are built into Microsoft Word to make sure lists are actually lists. And finally, exporting into PDF in a way that preserves all those accessibility features. And we learned that that's only possible in Windows, that on the Mac you can't. You can do all the accessibility stuff within Word, but you can't export to accessible PDF from a Mac. You have to use Windows to do that, or you have to use some other sort of workaround. Yes?
I switched from Mac to Windows. Can you recreate the steps and how you got to the tags? How does that can't seem to get there?
Yeah, let's revisit the entire workflow actually. And we also have a set of documents that we're going to be working with. So those of you that are new, let's make sure that we've all got the documents that we need. And those are at this top URL here, staff.washington.edu/tft/downloads. And it would be great if you could create a folder on your desktop and then save the files that are here at this website. Save those to that folder. Those are the files that we're going to be working on. So each of those files you can just right click and save as, save target as, and save them to that folder. And you guys, did you get the new people? Did you get an email with files attached to it? Did that include syllabus.pdf? Okay, and so you got that somewhere? Okay, so let's start with syllabus.pdf. And what we want to do is open that in Adobe Acrobat Pro. So you might need to, if you can find that file, then you might need to right-click on it and select Open with Adobe Acrobat X. Otherwise, it'll just open it up in the reader. Okay. All right. Get through there. Yep. You're actually in the browser, so yeah, you're going to open up there. So, yeah, actually, go back to that. Right click on that link and save the link as. And then, did you create a folder on the desktop? Title folder. Okay, so go ahead and double click on that title folder. And then actually, let's look over here. It's Google Drive, so you have to download it. And then open what's the layer over? Open with show in Finder. And then right click on it. And open with Adobe Acrobat Pro. Yeah. So does everybody have syllabus open in Adobe Acrobat Pro? Anybody not? Okay. You waiting on the machine?
I'm just
Yeah,
walking around.
okay.
Yeah, but I'll catch up.
All right. What's happening over here? That actually is a Word file. So syllabus, when we were working with that earlier in part one, we created a PDF version of that.
Yeah.
Did you save that?
Save that.
Okay, so that's it. That's what we need. Okay. Although that opens up, when you double click it, it opens in Acrobat Reader. So that's not going to give us the tools that we need. So right click and open up. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Okay, the other thing we're going to have open, in addition to Acrobat Reader, is this website at uw.edu/accessibility/documents. And then the fixing inaccessible PDFs using Adobe Acrobat Pro. I'm going to follow that link, and that'll bring up the PDF workflow. And then basically we're just going to step through this workflow, looking at first this document that we created already, and then we're going to open up a few other documents that were shared with me from Portland State to just kind of get some more experience with other documents. So, reviewing a little bit, step one, does the document have text? Can you select text within this document? I actually could earlier, but for some reason I'm not able to now.
I can.
You can? That's really weird. Okay, we'll assume that I can. Step two, is the document tagged? So that's Control D in Windows, Command D on the Mac. Well, what do you find when you look at that tag PDF field? Is it tagged? Yep. Okay. So far so good, because tagged PDF is essential for accessibility, right? But just because it's tagged doesn't mean it's tagged well. So step three, does the document need to be touched up? This is where we turn to our accessibility tools. And again, we've got tools up in the upper right of Acrobat Pro. If you don't have accessibility over there yet as one of your tools, then you can go to View, Tools, Accessibility, and it will show up over there. And there's several tools here within the Accessibility Toolkit. The one we want to look at first here is Touch-Up Reading Order. So you click that, and it'll show you the approximate read order of our document. When you do that, do you see any red flags? Anything that looks like it's not in quite the right order? Yes?
I don't see anything.
You don't see anything, okay. At what point did you, so you clicked on Tools, you clicked on Accessibility.
I have the touch-up reading order, but nothing's selected.
All right, so when you click Touch-Up Reading Order, you get something at all resembling what I get? A dialog box.
I have the dialog box, but there's nothing on my actual document that's highlighted, like with the boxes that you have.
That's interesting. What, does anybody else have an experience like mine or like hers?
Mine was yours.
Like me? How many have experience like me? How many of you are experiencing the same thing as her? Anybody? Where it's just, it doesn't seem to be numbers like mine?
She is on a Mac.
I am on the Mac.
So
What's
mine.
that?
Yeah, these guys are too. And it, actually, at this
Oh,
point,
yes,
it should be
double.
the same. The experience should be the same for Acrobat Pro. Let's see what's going on there.
Oh, you know what? I have the same experience if I use the syllabus.pdf document I created in the first session. It doesn't have any indicator of what the reading order is.
Huh.
So like I didn't do the appropriate export because it was on the Mac. I just saved it as a PDF and let it go.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So, but then I went and used the PDF that you sent, or that you,
Oh, so I'm using the wrong document.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Try the other.
Weird. It should still have a read order though, so I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it's
And I'm actually using, I think, the one that we created in class.
Well, yours does have tags in it.
Yeah.
This one
yours-
doesn't.
Yours doesn't have
Yeah,
tags.
this is one that says no tags.
Yeah, so that's some weird things occasionally happen in this process, and you've discovered one, it seems. But normally, you would get something like this. You've got the read order, and those of you that do have read order, what do you see?
It's pretty out of order.
It's a little bit out of order. It's not terrible. There are much worse documents out there. But the figure is read 8. It has a number 8 beside it. And that certainly would seem to be the first thing it should read. And so to change the order, you, within the touch-up reading order dialog, we click on Show Order Panel. Brings up yet another little thing over here on the left, which is the read order. And you see that the image is down there as number 8, and you want to drag that up to the top. This is a click and drag operation, and so if you're wondering about the accessibility of it, as you should be, it is very difficult or impossible to do a lot of the things that we're doing here if you are a screen reader user or if you can't use a mouse. So it's not a very, it's ironic that an accessibility related workflow is not accessible in and of itself, but that's just the case.
I can't seem to make it go to the top position. Second one, yes, but not any higher.
Yeah, it's tricky. You got to be just in the right place, which is a little bit to the right.
Or you can drag and drag those off one down to
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's a
another
good
thing
idea.
too. Drag down.
Right at the top. Okay, thank you.
There's also a blank number 2 there. You guys see that?
Yeah.
You can just delete that from the read order because it's It's nothing that needs to be read.
So we just right click on it.
Just click on it within the read order, hit the delete key, and it's gone. So now the read order is correct. It was just the image was the only thing that could be out of whack. Now, it's important to point out that the read order really isn't the read order. This is something that I had always believed this was the order in which screen readers would read the content, and that's not quite true. That this read order is the reflow read order. So if somebody opens this up on a mobile device, then it will reflow to fit the mobile device. When that happens, you're going to get some stuff that used to be side by side that has to sort of morph into a new shape. And this is the order of precedence for that morphing. So if the image had been number 8, then we open it up on a mobile device, the image is down at the bottom of the document. So this is going to look better than when somebody opens it up on a small screen, basically, or when somebody zooms in, if it's a low vision user that needs high zoom level. And it usually is pretty correlated with what the screen reader experience is, but not necessarily 100% in sync. So what screen readers read is actually a tag structure. So we want to also check, when we're looking at the tag structure, check to make sure the order makes sense there too. And sometimes you move something around in touch-up reading order, and for whatever reason it doesn't move over in the tag structure, and so you have to also move it there. Yes?
One question. Right now, in Area 3, class schedule is part of that. Should that be part of 4?
It should, but it doesn't really matter because it's still going to be in the right order.
It's still going to, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Where did you get the little tag icon?
Tag icon, if that's not there by default, then you go to View, Show Hide, Navigation Panes, Tags.
Or you can right click in the gray bar to the left.
Yep, that's even better. Right click in the gray bar where you expect the tag icon to show up, and then that's one of the choices. Thanks for that. One step's always better than 4. So there are a few other things you can do within the touch-up read order dialog. One of those is you can add or change your alternate text. So if you click on an image, and it tells you this is a figure, if it has alternate text, it says what that alternate text is. If it has no alternate text, it'll say no alternate text. And you can then right-click on the number up in the upper left of that item and select Edit Alternate Text, and then type your alternate text in there.
Cool.
This is one of those things where we talked about in the first half, the title and description field. If you had information in both and then exported to PDF, the title would be lost, the description would be used to populate the alternate text field in the PDF. So that's why we always just use description. There's also a table editor built into the touch-up reading order. And so if we go down to our simple table, click on that, then you can click on the table editor button. That shows you, kind of draw some lines around the table content. You can right-click on that table and go to Table Editor Options. And it's very helpful for accessibility purposes to show the cell type. So we know whether this is a TH or a TD. And what we're hoping for is the THs. Those are table headers. So week, topic, reading assignment, those should all be marked up as TH. Everything else should be TD. That's what we're striving for related to accessibility. We want those headers to be identified as headers. And that should have worked when we exported from Word, since we checked that checkbox that said, identify this as the header row. As I mentioned, complex tables, you can't make those accessible in Word, so you would have to actually do the work here in Acrobat Pro. And that's a more cumbersome process. But when you go into the table editor for this complex table, first of all, you see that everything is a TD instead of a TH, just because we didn't bother adding any sort of markup to that. One by one, you need to go into each cell, identify the header cells as header cells, identify the scope of the header cell, which is a column, give each header cell an ID, and I can just call that first one homework. And so we now have a TH there for the homework cell, and it has an ID. And the other stuff that needs to happen, it gets more and more complex. And so I sort of hesitate to get into it in this particular class, but I just want to sort of point out to you that this exists. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have a complex data table and you have created it in Word and you've exported to PDF and you need to now somehow make that accessible, that you can do that from here. And it requires a lot of work and an understanding of how table accessibility works, like within an HTML sort of framework. So that might be something where when you get to this point, then reach out to the groups on campus who can support you with that, and work together to figure out the best strategy for making that table accessible.
So what's the ID? What do you set for an ID, or you just number it, give it a unique ID?
Yeah, it can be anything at all. So it's a programmatic ID behind the scenes. And then what's going to happen with the TDs, so like homework will complete this process. So I gave the homework header an ID of homework. And
okay. Isn't that gonna be the number? Okay.
And then when I go into the TD, underneath that 15% cell, if I go into cell properties, then there's this place where I can identify associated header cell IDs, and I use the plus sign to select which IDs go with this data cell. And so I've only created one header so far, and that's the homework one, so I'll select that. And now that TD is associated with the appropriate header cell. So ultimately, I would want to go through and give every header cell an ID, and then go through every data cell and associate the appropriate header IDs with that cell. There's also some cleanup that needs to happen because I've got cells in here that don't really exist, and so I would need to just modify the row spans and column spans potentially in order to just clean up the table and make it more accurate reflection of what the actual structure of this table is.
All right. In the tags, on the left, there's the TDs, but then I have a span tag. It looks like that could be deleted, I suppose. Huh?
Yeah. So So let's, before we get into that, so right now we've looked at the touch-up reading order. Again, it's good for touching up the reading order. It's good for adding alternate text to images or changing alternate text. It's also good, we don't have any just background clutter in this document, but if we did, sometimes that might be like, page numbers that appear on every page. We don't really need that, or footers that appear on every page, or just, any other little, artifacts that really are just going to interfere more with reading than anything else. Then touch-up reading order allows you to select whatever that is. Like, let's say this figure, it's not the logo, let's say it was just a decorative image that has no actual informative value, then we could just make that part of the background by clicking on background, and that just disappears from the structure. So screen readers aren't going to read that at all. So that's a quick way of cleaning up the document a lot of times, and just cutting it down to the essential stuff, getting rid of all the noise. So that's all stuff you can do within touch-up reading order. So then back over here to our workflow, step 4 is we actually start to get in and look at the structure. We look at those tags, and we want to make sure that the tags make sense. And you can get into a lot of detail here, like there's often are spans where there really don't need to be spans, or other tags that just seem to be made up completely. If you save from InDesign, often you've got tags that are named based on the styles within InDesign, and so they're not even real tags. Screen readers are going to ignore a lot of the tags that are in this structure. So the main thing is headings. Headings are really important, and so just going in and making sure that headings are there and that they're at the appropriate levels is a real positive first step. And even if you have time to do nothing else, just go in and check the headings, and that will make the document easier to navigate and a lot more accessible than it was otherwise. So in this particular document, when we drill into the tag structure, we see that there is indeed an H1. We click on that, and it should highlight the H1 there in the document. So we can see, yes, this H1 does correspond with that. That's correct. That's what we had hoped would happen. If we click H2, we see the textbook is highlighted. So it looks great. We've got a paragraph. We have another H2. We have a list with 3 items in it. If we open that up, we see the 3 list items. So the structure of this document that we created from Word actually looks very good. We can also go backwards. So rather than working from the tree, if you just want to find out whether a particular piece of text, we want to find out what tag is used for a particular piece of text. So like if we know this textbook should be an H2, we want to check and make sure that's true. We highlight textbook, and then over here in the tags panel, there's this little, I'm never sure what to call it, but there's a little icon at the top of the tags panel that if you click on the arrow next to that, you get this menu. So I guess we call it the tags menu. Then one of the options is find tag from selection. So you've selected something, you find tag from selection, then it opens up that particular tag. It's highlighted a little bit, and you can see that is indeed an H2, which is what we expect it to be. So it's a good way just to go through and sort of spot check a document, highlight some things that you know should be headings, you know what level headings they should be, find tag from selection, and just make sure that that tag is correct. If it's not correct, if, let's say, maybe course objectives in a different document, maybe course objectives was listed, maybe this should be an H3, and it shows up as an H2, and so we want to change it to an H3. A couple ways to do that. One is to right-click and go to Properties, and then under type, you see heading level 2, you can select all sorts of other tag types. If we wanted heading level 3, we would just select that and then close. And when we do that, what we find is that it changed it to H3. So it doesn't actually say heading level 3, it doesn't spell it out. So a shortcut would just be to click and then edit the tag if you know what the tag actually should be. So for those of you that know HTML, that's probably the easiest way to go because the tags are very similar to HTML. But if you're not sure what a particular tag is, then you can go into the properties and select it from that drop-down list. Yes?
Do you happen to know if using capital H is crucial in that situation? Because I had just sort of retyped some with lowercase h's, and when I go to look at the properties, it reads what I typed in rather than the associated heading letter.
Oh, right.
Piece. So
Yeah.
I think it's best.
Yeah, I don't happen to know whether that matters for screen readers. Since it's not forming that association, though, I'd be concerned about it. But
Yeah.
I would be inclined to do the capital H.
I'll test it.
I know that a lot of times, because the way InDesign works, you'll get headings that look like headings, and then the tag will be something like heading 1, but not H1. And that's not the same thing. And so screen readers won't read that. You look at it and you think, oh, well, okay, it's a heading 1, this is heading 2, looks good. But that's just a name that InDesign has assigned to a tag, but it's not really in H1. So InDesign's a little tricky, and there's a separate document for how to create accessible documents in InDesign, completely different sort of workflow. But it's important if you're an InDesign user to get familiar with that in order to be sure that it creates accessible PDF. Okay, so this is actually a pretty straightforward document. Most documents you're going to see are a little messier than this one.
I have an answer to my question.
Yeah?
Capital H is important.
Yeah? So you test with a screen reader? Or?
Well, no, but with Adobe Acrobat Pro, if you use a capital H when you're editing those, like switching from a paragraph to a heading, it will reflect the type as heading level, whatever you chose, rather than just using the characters H3 in that dialog.
Okay.
So that seems a better fit.
Yeah. Okay. Yes?
For some reason I'm not seeing how to change the type. So the gray thing's marked as a paragraph. How do you change it?
You, if you're sure what you want to change it to, and you know what the appropriate PDF tag would be, then you just click once on that tag, and then it becomes editable.
Oh,
And then you can just
there.
type in your tag there. If you're not sure, you right-click on the tag, and then select Properties, and then that gives you a drop-down list.
Okay.
Okay, let's close this one and open up PSU example 1. And again, right-click on it and open with Adobe Acrobat X. So you want to just step through the workflow again. Step 1, does it have text? Step 2, is it tag? Does it need to be touched up? And so forth. And as soon as you get to a place where accessibility isn't quite right, then shout. First person to identify it gets, I don't have any prizes to give away, but gets praise. so it does have text. It is tagged. Does everybody on this document, does everybody have the an order when you click touch up reading order? Anybody not have an order this time? And it so it's true, no alternate text exists for that image at the top. What would be good alternate text for that image?
Perhaps.
Invisible.
Word cloud?
It does say invisible, but is that all it says, or is something else being communicated with that?
The word is invisible.
But there are lots of words within that word.
Yeah. So do we need to mention what all those words are that comprise the word invisible, or somehow at least explain that the word invisible is spelled out with other words? It's kind of collage sort of thing.
Maybe some of them.
It seems to be significant information in this context. Again, it all sort of depends on context, but it's a one-page document, and that's a key part of the document. And so I think that probably is needs to be described somehow. And again, it's kind of an art, figuring out the best words to say so that that's described succinctly. Anybody a good wordsmith?
Well, it seems to be a list of disabilities that are often invisible. So,
Okay. So you could say something like, the word invisible spelled out with letters that are formed from words. I'm not liking this, but this is kind of the idea. Such as, and then maybe pick out some of the more prominent ones, because some are larger and darker than others. Such as dyslexia, diabetes, autism, cancer, HIV, AIDS. And so something to that effect, and maybe tweak it a little bit, but that gives the user an idea of what this is, so they get that communication. So we also have the order is a little messed up too, right? So that shows up as number 4, and you got kind of an outer frame that's going to be read first. That's got nothing in it anyway. Really, the only 2 pieces that are going to be read are number 3 and 4, and those are out of order. They're flip-flop. So that's where you show order panel. Just get rid of the ones that are empty. And then change the order of the 2 that remain. And you should be good. How do the tags look?
The list.
So you feel that that content there should be a list, 1 out of 5, 4 out of 5, or that's a 3-item list. I see some nods and some shakes. Who votes yes that should be a list? Okay, 4 or 5 hands up. Who votes that should just be a paragraph, as several paragraphs? Okay, so, and the rest of your aren't real attached to either. It is prefaced by the facts, and so it seems to be sort of a list of facts, so I can see the argument for wanting to have that as a list. The other thing that often sort of factors into this is, how long is the document? Is it really that important for the user to know that this is a list? In the scenario we described before, where you've got, a list of course objectives in a larger document, maybe there are 3 course objectives, maybe there are 20, and you want to know that going in because it's going to affect whether you decide to read it or not. In this case, this document is only going to take a few seconds to read the entire thing, and so it might not be that big a deal. And the other factor is it is going to take work. If you want to change those to a list from paragraph, it's not going to take a lot of work, but you would have to go in and change those tags. And so I always argue not for perfection when it comes to PDF accessibility, but my belief is that more pretty accessible PDFs is better than a few really accessible PDFs. So rather than spend your time changing those paragraphs to list items, just make sure this is basically good and basically readable, and then move on to the next PDF in order to get as much kind of accessible as possible. Because there are millions of PDFs out there, probably hundreds of thousands just right here at PSU, and so we got a lot of work to do. Any questions about this document? You can also argue to change the facts to a heading, because that really kind of is. But again, given the length of the document, I wouldn't worry too much about that, because a heading just allows you to jump around within the document, gives you some sense of structure, and there's so little content here that it doesn't seem to be as essential.
I did miss the step of where you moved paragraph 2, where you, instead of making it the background, you made it into just the paragraph. You know what I'm talking about? Right now,
this whole block here,
yeah,
block 2?
Yeah, right now mine is totally grayed out, like the whole page, like a background, instead of having the box just around the facts.
Yeah, so what I did was when I went to show the order panel,
Okay.
there were 5 things listed,
Right.
3 of which were blank, and I just deleted all the blank ones, leaving
Right.
only the 2 that are visible.
Huh, mine does not look like that, even though those are gone.
So do you have just 2 things left in your?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you might have deleted the wrong one. Maybe deleted one that actually had content.
It says image, number 1, and then it says the facts.
Oh, so number 2. So
But
you do
my
have.
screen is all big and gray,
Oh, okay.
so I guess it doesn't matter. But
Yeah, it's as long as that's included in
Yeah.
inside of that box, then it will be
but the
read.
trouble
and
is, so is
interpreted.
the image. That's the
So
problem.
the image is nested inside of that?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I don't think it's probably going to be a problem as long as the image is first.
It
Then
is.
it'll read the image and then it'll read everything else, and everything else includes the rest of that content.
So,
Okay, let's close this one and move on to example number 2. And again, right click, open with Adobe Acrobat X. So this is an actual syllabus, a little more complex than the one we worked with earlier. So walk through the steps in the workflow, and once again, shout out when you find something that you have to answer no to. What's that?
There's some tags.
There are no tags. Okay, and how'd you find that out?
By going to File and Properties
Okay,
or Control V.
tag PDF, no. more often than not, that's what you're going to see on the PDFs that are out there until we all get better at producing tag PDF and we, are able to spread the word and make this accessibility thing contagious. So it's not tagged, but as it explains in the workflow, that's not the end of the world. We can tag it. Acrobat Pro, under the accessibility tool set, gives us an option to add tags to document. So we click that. We wait a little bit. It gives us a bunch of feedback over on the left, and I usually just sort of ignore that because it's a lot of reading that I find not to be very helpful. But a more helpful next step, for me anyway, is to just go into the tags and see what it came up with. And this is where it's especially helpful to just select some text, like welcome, looks like it should be a heading, and then find tag from selection, and indeed it is a heading, but it's a heading level 4, it's an H4 tag. Is that a good heading tag or a not so good heading tag? Adobe, unfortunately, its automatic tagger engine seems to use text size to determine what tag something is going to be. And I keep bugging them about that, but it doesn't ever seem to change. So a lot of times you'll get, if you've got a small heading at the top, it's not going to be heading 1, it's going to be something like heading 4. And it's important to sort of review, before you change it, review the entire document to kind of get a sense for what the structure should be. And it looks like welcome. I don't know, what do you think? Is that an H1? Or is something higher up, like leadership and post-secondary education, the heading 1, really, even though it doesn't look like a heading? And then welcome, instructor information, course overview, all those centered and all caps phrases seem to be heading level 2s. So if we agree then that leadership and post-secondary education is a heading level 1, then we need to find that tag from selection. That whole paragraph there, and maybe that's all that should be heading level 1. That's a long heading, but it's the easiest solution here would be to take this paragraph and change it to a heading 1. Yes?
What is a part?
A part is a part of a document as Adobe perceived it. Sometimes it seems pretty arbitrary, and that and other tags like it, section, things like that, even page, are going to be ignored by screen readers. So you really don't need to worry about it.
Mean nothing, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only things you really need to be looking for are headings, paragraphs, tables, and lists. And figures. Okay, so we've got our H1. We also have an H4 above that. I'm going to change that to a paragraph. And then welcome, which is currently H4, I'm going to change to H2. And then I'll find the tag for instructor information. That too is an H4. Now at this point you might be wondering if it's possible to search and replace, so that you could just take all the H4s and convert them to H2s. And as far as I know, that is not possible within Acrobat Pro. You actually have to manually go through and do this kind of thing. Now there is a tool that I should mention called Common Look They just changed the name. I think it's Common Look Global PDF now, or something like that. Comes out of Canada, and it actually sits on top of Acrobat Pro and provides an alternative interface that walks you through, sort of, it's like a wizard that walks you through the process of fixing PDFs. And really, it provides a lot of solutions that just make it a quicker process, things that you can't do in Acrobat Pro that it does really easily. And also for somebody who's intimidated by all these steps, it makes it a lot smoother process. But it's also very expensive, and so we don't have a license yet at the UW. We're evaluating it and trying to figure out whether we want to integrate it somehow into our workflow. We can't get an enterprise license because the cost is too out there. But we might have select people who are using this that, within disability services would be an obvious place, but maybe other places too, where we kind of have a service that people can tap into that would be using a tool like that to do the retrofit.
My screen's looking completely different from yours.
What's that?
I've got boxes all around areas where it's already prescribed the tabs. Before when I opened this, it said it had no tabs. And so I closed the document, reopened it again, and now I'm back to no tabs. But I'm not seeing the tabs.
Did you run add tags to the document?
Yes, and that puts squares around a lot of the stuff on the document. It tends to lock me in. So I can't just highlight an area, it's already got it highlighted for me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Okay, have a look.
So, like I said, I just closed that old document without saving it. I just opened it. This is initially what I got with no tags. And then when I go over here to add tags, there's that.
Okay, so you got touch of reading order open still. What's that?
Oh, so that's what it is, so I need to close that.
Yeah.
So touch up reading would actually go away. That looks a little better.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Okay, so I'm going to choose. So I can just select that, hit that tab.
Select that and then go find tag from selection.
Okay.
And you see then what's highlighted, you see that it's a paragraph. So,
And then hit tab.
yeah, you make that into each one.
Just right there.
And then click one more time to make it editable. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you very much.
What?
I think she was where I was at too.
So, what if you wanted to split the, that paragraph that's leadership and post-secondary, that whole block there, and you change it to an H4, but what if you wanted to split it apart, say, well, leadership post-secondary, that's the H2, and something else, winter is H3, or just a paragraph or something?
Then the best bet is going to be to delete the tag that's there, just completely get rid of it, and then one by one select each of these items. We can actually step through that.
Okay.
It does come in handy sometimes. If we delete the tag, then it's gone. Now I actually just deleted the wrong one, I think. But then you highlight what it is that you want to create a new tag for, and then you select create tag from selection, and it adds a new tag. You can also create a new tag altogether. And this comes in handy if the document is, if you've got a lot of images and they're all sort of superimposed and there's just content all over the place and most of it's visual, and it's really going to be a nightmare to try and figure out like where each image is on the page. Sometimes it's best just to completely hose the entire tag structure start over from scratch, and just go in and create new tag, and then select, in case like what I just described, most of the content is probably going to be figures. And so you just add a bunch of figures and then go into each figure that you've added and add alternate text. And the figures you've added aren't even going to necessarily be associated with the actual figure on the page anywhere. But this tag structure is just there to be read by screen readers. So it doesn't matter if it has that explicit association. So what other issues are we going to run into with this document in addition to, if we go through, we change all the headings to their appropriate levels. What other problems are there within this?
Well, the image doesn't have a descriptor.
Which image is that?
The logo.
Okay, so there's no alternate text for the logo. What would be good alternate text for the logo? Anybody?
Just Portland State logo.
Okay, Portland State logo or Portland State University. What about the on the top of page 2? This vision thing with the 4 columns and that is a picture with no alternate text. What would be good alternate text for that? That's a tricky one because there's a lot of text there, and maybe presenting that as a single image with a huge block of alternate text isn't the best approach to making that accessible. This might be a case where you get rid of the picture, or maybe you just add alternate text that reflects that there is a picture here, maybe with that title that's going across the top or something. Just kind of a general description of the image. But then actually add the content using this new tag option. And add a list with 4 items and type in the content for those 4 items. So anything you do here in the tag structure is not going to affect the actual visible document. So this is all, again, it's just behind the scenes. So in a sense, you would be creating kind of an alternative version of a list that describes this image, specifically for screen reader users, so they get that full structure of what's there.
Change the tag to list and add. So it's changing the tag, and that is what's making it.
Yeah, so you could change the tag. My inclination would be to keep the figure there, though. The reason being, sometimes you get conversations happening between the blind student and another student who has sight, or an instructor who has sight, and somebody talks about the image or the picture at the top of page 2, and the screen reader user looks at page 2, can't find a picture. So they have no idea, what's going on. So still having a picture there can be a good thing. But supplementing that by adding a list that provides access to the content. So specifically, what I would do...
Does it ever make sense to include in your alt description to see tags for detail? Or for an image like that? Or does that kind of instruction not really help the person who's
Probably
using the
not.
screen?
The screen reader user doesn't really know there are tags necessarily. I mean, it does, like, they're jumping from heading to heading, and it will do all that, but not all screen readers know how that works.
Okay.
So the word tag would never appear, and the screen reader's not going to use that terminology.
Okay.
So if you find tag from selection to find this figure, and then there's actually another way to add alt text too. Here in the tag panel, you can right click, go to properties, and type in alternate text. And so this might be something like 4 columns showing various goals and purposes related to diversity or something. But then instead of referring to tags, you could say something like see list below. And then we would want to add a list. And this sometimes gets a little tricky because if we add a list now, where is it going to place it? We want it to go immediately underneath this figure. But I found that the easiest thing to do is to anchor myself up at the top, then create a new tag. We want to create a list. And so it actually then added it to the bottom, but then we can drag that up into the appropriate place, wherever that ultimately may be. So we open up the tag tree and then drag it into place. Once we have a list, we want to create a new list item. We want to create 3 new list items. And then drag each of these list items into the list. And then drag the list into place. Then the list items, actually it would be 4 list items. For the list items, we go into properties and then type in for alternate text, type in the text that appears in each of the 4 columns.
How did you add the new list? I'm sorry. How did you add the new list items under the list?
For each of those, I just went to the menu up here and selected new tag. And then selected, the first time I selected list, and then the next 4 times I would select the list item. It always defaults to whatever you selected last, so it's pretty quick to go in and just create another list item, another list item, another list item. Yeah. And then, so then earlier, sometime we were talking about alternate text, adding alternate text to things other than images. That was in Word, I think that came up. It actually, in a PDF, you can do that, and it is supported by screen readers, to enter alternate text on any object, and it will read that instead of the object that's presented visually. So this will be a case where we would want to do that. The list items that we have don't actually have any content in them. So we need to have alternate text that screen readers will read.
What is the title? It's the tag. What is the title of the tag?
The title of the tag is just a reference for you. And so if you enter something in there, like first, I don't know what you put in this case, but just for an example, first list item, then that actually shows up visibly in the structure. So it makes it easier to tell what this tag is when you're looking at the tag tree.
So, I'm sorry, you're saying that the text from one of those list items would actually go in the alternate text field?
Yeah, because there is no actual text here, it's just a picture, so there's nothing we can highlight and make a tag out of. So somehow we're going to have to type the text in, and it's easiest just to do that in the alternate text field. So here, if you look at learning objectives, this is another example of a list, there really should be a list, so we hope that that's a list. Select a list item, go into find tag from selection, and indeed, it is a list item. It has a label for the number and a title, so this is even a little bit more detail in the PDF tags than in the HTML tags. So that looks good. What about on page 4? There's this points to earn grades table. One clue for me that this is a problem is just if you try to select the text. Notice what the order is for how this is selected. It's going to read everything in the left column first, then everything in the right column. This isn't truly a table. There are no rows here in this table that form associations between across the row. Another thing that you can do is listen to this. Acrobat actually has a screen reader built into it. If you go to view, and don't everybody do this because it'll be quite the cacophony. If you go to view, read out loud, then that is the screen reader that's built into Acrobat. Even into reader, I think. I don't think you have to have Pro to do this. But it's not a full-blown screen reader, so a blind person would never use this. But it allows you to get a sense for sort of the order and whether there are any glaring problems with how a screen reader might read a document. And this is a case where if you want to know, well, I'm kind of curious about that table, I'm not sure whether it's going to be read properly, then we can just test it by activating, first you activate read out loud, and then you go back and read either this page only, or you can read to the end of the document. So this is why it's not a full-fledged screen reader. It doesn't have a whole lot of flexibility. You can read everything or nothing. You're not able to jump between headings or read a little bit and pause or go back and do other things that screen readers typically do. So let's just see what this sounds like.
Points to earn grades. Points 95 plus 90, 94, 87, 89, 84, 86, 80, 83, 77, 79, grade AB plus, BBC plus, points 74, 76, 70, 73, 67, 69, 64, 66, 60, 63, and LT 60 grade CCD plus, DVF, and GT if students anticipate that they cannot complete the assigned coursework according to the given timeline, then they should reconsider their
So our hunch has been confirmed that this table is not very informative for screen reader users. And it would be very hard, of course, for somebody with an actual screen reader to figure out how all that goes together. So that it really speaks to the need to sort of redo that table. We could redo it here within Acrobat. But the decision about how to retrofit a document rests a lot on whether the original source is available and whether this is a document that's going to get edited in the future. Because if we go to a lot of trouble now to fix accessibility in the PDF, this PDF is post-production. So if somebody goes into the original document and changes just one word and exports the PDF, then we're going to have to start all over again. So the best case scenario is always start with the original source, make that accessible, and then only do all the stuff that we're doing here if you don't have access to the source, or if you know for sure that this is the final version and it's never going to get reused, edited, repurposed again. So, but at this point, we have a fairly huge problem with the table, and so I would look back in your document properties, not only do you see that this was created and tagged, that this is tagged, but you also have some detail about how it was created. The application that was used to create this was Word. So somewhere there's a Word file that has the syllabus in it. And that would be the place to go back in and create an actual table that has rows and columns to replace that the content that looks like a table but really isn't a table. We have the same problem down here with the assignments
Speaker reaction,
and due dates.
reflection, annotated bibliography, community interview, paper, final paper participation.
So we know what all the assignments are, but we don't know what the due dates are. We read the due dates separately, we read the points separately, and then sort of have to do some cognitive matching to figure out, okay, well there are 5 rows in each one of those, and so maybe row 1 goes with row 1 in each of those, but we're not sure unless it is actually formulated as a table. After you, as you just discovered, once you turn read out loud on, then it will read text as you highlight it, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. If you don't want to keep doing that, then you deactivate read out loud. Turn that off. The table on page 8, I'm not able to select. So I'm not sure what that is exactly. If I just select the part that I can, the text above that, find tag from selection, then that gets me close. So that's the paragraph. Right underneath that is a table. Inside of that, we have a table row. And so this one actually looks pretty good, although it needs to have its table headers identified as headers. So you can do that here in the tag structure. You can change those TDs to THs, or again, you could do it in touch-up reading order. You've got that table editor. You can manipulate it there. But this table actually looks like it is a table that is going to be readable across rows, down columns, so that's going to make more sense. Although it also it created several tables, whereas this is actually one big giant table. So the appropriate thing to do there would be to merge those by dragging table rows from one table up into an existing table. So what do you think? Does this seem doable, or is it exhausting? Is it both exhausting and doable?
Would it be easier to take your Acrobat Adobe PDF, convert it back to Word, do all your edits that way, and then resave it?
Possibly. It depends on, I don't know what would happen with that conversion.
Yeah, that's.
You should have a Word document.
Yeah, and for the syllabus, that truly exists. There will be cases where you don't have the original document.
Right, that's my, when you don't
Yeah.
have the original document.
Yeah, I haven't tried that going from PDF. For me, I don't think it's easier necessarily. It depends on your content, probably. But if you've got data tables in a document, Acrobat's the only place you can fix them. You can't fix them in Word, so that doesn't make any sense to go to Word. For a simpler document where you just got paragraphs, it's not going to be this messy. And so,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, just for grins, let's close this and open up the third example. Again, right click, open with Adobe Acrobat X. It's one of those messy forms you guys can talk about.
Luckily, this is just a backup to the electronic document, so
Uh-huh.
this one hardly ever has to get used. However, it's a good example.
Okay, so you do have an electronic timesheet
Yeah.
system that is not PDF based, right? So as a backup, in an emergency situation, which probably is never going to happen, but if it does, maybe you would have to, somebody who is not able to fill out the print form would have to have some assistance filling that out. Which is kind of the old school way before technology came and started providing solutions for people with disabilities who couldn't fill out forms. But if we wanted to make a form accessible, first of all, it needs to be interactive. Printing and filling out a form by hand is inaccessible for a lot of people. You can't read it. If you don't have the dexterity to fill in, a form like this with very small holes, very small containers for the data that you're supposed to be entering. Lots of people just can't do this, and so doing it electronically is preferred. So this would be a very, very complex form to make accessible, though. And so, is the timesheet system accessible? Is that in HTML and
It's in Banner. Yeah.
have labels for form fields and all that good stuff?
As far as I know, it's accessible. We have at least one blind user who uses
Fills out their timesheets. Okay. So probably something like this would take a lot of work, but essentially you would go into your tools, into forms, create a form, use an existing file, use the current document, and it will automatically analyze what you have here and add a bunch of form fields to it. And it might have actually done a pretty decent job. And then the key for accessibility of these forms is the tooltip. That each field has to have a tooltip that includes the prompt for what a person is supposed to enter into this field. So if we double click on any field, it brings up a field properties dialog, and it automatically filled in a tooltip based on adjacent text. In this case, PSUID number. So this is actually where it's handy to, I'm going to close form editing. To use read out loud, to tab through the field, the form, and just listen to what read out loud says each time you get to a form field.
Name, last, first, text field.
That's pretty clear. It wants my name, it wants last, comma, first.
ECLS text field. Period. mm/16/yy mm/15/yy text field.
That seems pretty clear too, even though that's a little bit hard to read. I might have to read it a couple times to understand it, but
Department name text field. Position text field. Time and sun text field.
now we start,
Time
over here we
time
start
and
jumping
hours
around
to
a lot.
Time, hour, time, and time out. Row 2 text field. Hours text field. Date, sun text field.
Sounds like it's getting irritated. So this is complex, especially complex because it's got rows and columns of headers. Really, it's a table, but it's a form, and so each tooltip is going to need to communicate not only time in, time out, which is what it's doing now, but that we're on the Sunday row or we're on the Monday row. So we're going to need to go in and modify those tooltips. And we're also going to need to, we go into edit the form. Then over on the right, you see a list of all the fields in the order in which they're going to be read. And so this, again, is going to be very cumbersome because there's so many fields, but essentially you just drag a field to its appropriate spot, and until the fields are all in the right order. That's the kind of thing maybe you have a student do. But, and then of course you've got, with forms like this, you've got questions about signature and whether, whether electronic signature is going to suffice, or whether the person actually has to fill this out anyway. But, so that's, forms are a completely different sort of thing. You tackle those in a very different workflow. And back over here on our own document accessibility site, we have a separate page for creating accessible PDF forms that walks through that separately. So all the stuff that we've been looking at in other documents, the tags, make sure headings are right, and all that, with a forms document, you actually aren't so concerned with all those other things, but just with getting the form fields in there and making sure that the form fields are tagged appropriately. Because typically in a forms document, a user is just going to be tabbing through the form, not even reading any of the other content. Okay, so that's our grand tour of document accessibility. We got 5 minutes to talk about how this fits within your world, or to answer any questions that you have.
Well, with the form, you're saying that it's only going to read the form fields. But if you need to give instructions or something that you want read into it to explain what's supposed to go in that field, are you going to put all those instructions in the little tags for each field, or can you put something almost like a header above all of that, kind of explaining what you're doing with it? Or
you can. Most forms will probably be a hybrid of document and form. Seems like a lot are that way. Maybe not most, but so if you do have chunks of readable text that are separate from the form, then the strategy is do the forms markup first, then tag the document. And when you do that, when you do add tags to documents, it incorporates all the stuff that you've added in terms of your form markup. It incorporates that into the tag structure. So then you've got a good form built into the tag structure, and then you can go in and manipulate your tag structure like we did on the earlier documents. But within the form, if you have instructions inside the form or blocks of text inside the form, chances are screen reader users are not going to see that, because they're going to be jumping with the tab key from field to field to field. Anything that's in between fields is just going to be overlooked. So if it's critical, then that does need to be copied and pasted into a tooltip, at least one tooltip, so that when a person encounters the first field that block of text applies to, they've got access to that information.
And is that also true on online forms? So a website, online form being filled out, is it going to... I know visually you can add in little instruction tabs and things like that. Will readers pick that up? Or
HTML provides some additional ways of doing things. So HTML, particularly in conjunction with ARIA, the new spec from the W3C that sort of extends HTML and allows us to do all sorts of new things related to accessibility. You can have descriptions that supplement content, and there's all sorts of, that's beyond the scope of what we can talk about here, but HTML in general, HTML just provides better accessibility than what you've got in other contexts. So that's true with validation too. You got an HTML5 document, you can do all sorts of stuff with validation now, where somebody enters something, a bad email address, they can immediately be notified. It says, that email's not valid, please try again, And the screen reader would get that prompt right then and there. So it's very difficult or impossible to do that kind of thing within a PDF. And so just the whole user experience is going to be better with an HTML form than with a PDF. So I would love for all of these forms that we're doing to all be HTML and well marked up, well coded, accessible HTML stuff. We still have a lot of stuff that's in PDF, so we need to know, what the techniques are for making sure that's accessible.
How do you add tags to this particular, once you have it in a form format, do you have to add the tags before you transfer to form? Or is it just not able to bring up the navigation page?
So the idea with adding tags is that comes next with a form. So you add the form first, and then add the tags. So we have edited the form, close the form editing, then go to accessibility, and this document actually already had tags.
So this is still a form, even though we closed the form editing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So how many of you are going to go back and fix some PDFs at some point in, say, the next couple of weeks? Not all hands go up. Most hands went up, that's good.
I have a question about scanned PDFs, because I do see a lot of them. One of the things that you always see with scanned PDFs is, the binding and, whatever stuff in there that are, I guess, just interpreted as images. I mean, you kind of don't want them. You kind of want to get rid of them, period. But is there a way to just get rid of them? You see what I mean? There's a lot of, there's a lot of garbage that usually gets scanned along with.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Actually, you can. Through Acrobat Pro, you can go in and select a field, delete everything else out, straighten it up. It's still going to have, the little speckles and stuff on it that it may have been to the scanner, but you can get rid of all that binding shadows and all that stuff.
You can get rid of that.
You can get rid of all that.
Visually,
It's a little bit of work, you bet. Yeah, you can make it.
I know you can mark up those
Yeah.
figures.
It takes a little work.
But you
You
can't
have to do that per page.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be nice if you could set it to ignore a particular region throughout.
Yeah, that would be nice. But you can't. But I know
Future
our
version.
Better yet, of
Well,
course, is finding the online article or whatever that may exist in HTML somewhere, but we just happen to have it in hard copy. Yeah.
But there is actually a way to apply those changes to each page. If you were to scan something and the binding shows up on one side for every scan, you would go into the crop option in Adobe, and you can crop it. So if a publisher doesn't have an electronic file of something that we're converting for students with disabilities, then we'll do a scan and we'll crop off the edge, or we'll take something out and apply it to the whole document.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Read my whole time. It's 12 o'clock. So thank
Well,
you, Terrill.
thank you all. Appreciate your sticking with us.